This case took a darker turn in a New Mexico courtroom this week as prosecutors revealed a deeply disturbing new allegation involving Timothy Busfield. The Emmy-winning actor appeared in court Tuesday for a detention hearing on child sex abuse charges. The state was clear in its position. They wanted Busfield kept behind bars while he awaits trial. Prosecutors argued he was dangerous. They told the judge there were no conditions that could guarantee the safety of the community if he were released. A state representative stood before the court and said, quote, "The defendant should be considered a danger and that no release conditions could protect the public." But what followed next is what stopped the courtroom cold. The prosecution revealed that one of the alleged victims disclosed the abuse during therapy, not to his parents, not to police, but to what they described as a neutral third party. According to the state, this disclosure happened after a key report was completed in September 2025, a report that brought clarity to how the allegations first surfaced. The representative told the judge that one child described sexual abuse by Busfield, while the second child disclosed inappropriate touching. Then came the most explosive detail. The boy reportedly told his therapist that he was angry at his own father. Angry because he believed his dad knew the abuse was happening. According to the state, the child said he thought his father knew because of access to an iPad and links used to monitor the children. That belief, that his parents might have known, is now central to the prosecution's argument. Prosecutors told the court that after the disclosure in therapy, a referral was made. A doctor later examined the children at Journey Pediatrics in September 2025. It was the doctor, not the mother, who reported concerns to New Mexico's Children, Youth, and Families Department. The state emphasized that this timeline matters. They told the judge, quote, that roughly 80% of children delay disclosure in cases like this. They explained that children often reveal abuse slowly, a little bit at a time, and that forensic interviews showed the boys were scared and felt people were being mean to them. Despite the state's push to keep Busfield jailed, the judge ruled otherwise. Timothy Busfield is out of jail, released by a New Mexico judge as his wife, actress Melissa Gilbert, broke down in tears inside the courtroom. The emotional moment unfolded as Judge David A. Murphy ruled that the Emmy-winning actor and director would be freed while awaiting trial in a sex abuse case, a decision that allowed Busfield to walk out without posting bail. Gilbert, seated in court during the hearing, became visibly emotional as the ruling was delivered, marking a dramatic scene in a case that continues to send shockwaves through Hollywood.
There's not been any prior pretrial detention finding, so on the balance, I cannot find that the state has proven by clear and convincing evidence that there are no release conditions that would reasonably protect the safety of any other person in the community. So I am denying the state's motion. I'll take care of that order. That'll be published tomorrow. So Mr. Busfield, I'll set the following conditions of release. You're authorized for release on your own recognizance.
Busfield, 68, surrendered to local authorities last week and was taken into custody in connection with allegations involving two minor boys. He's accused of sexually abusing the children while working as a director and producer on The Cleaning Lady, a television series filmed in New Mexico. Busfield has flatly denied the allegations. Prosecutors urged the court to keep him behind bars, arguing that the accusations reflect a broader pattern of inappropriate behavior, one they claim escalated and ultimately culminated on the set of the series. They pointed to statements made by the parents of the boys, who alleged that Busfield groomed and sexually abused their children while working with them during production. Those allegations were detailed in the arrest warrant filed by prosecutors.
It was during therapy, not the parents, to a neutral party that SL described sexual abuse by the defendant and VL disclosed inappropriate touching. The boys' disclosures in this case, they were detailed, they were visceral, they were also not exaggerated.
Inside the courtroom, Busfield's defense team mounted an aggressive push for his release. Attorneys submitted more than 70 letters written by individuals vouching for Busfield's character, reputation, and conduct throughout his decades-long career. The defense also told the court that Busfield had taken and passed a polygraph test related to the allegations. In addition, they cited a psychosexual risk assessment, arguing that it supported their claim that Busfield does not pose a danger.
I don't need to tell the court this, but my client is presumed innocent. As he sits here today, he is an innocent man. And I have significant concerns about the prosecution talking as if he has already been convicted.
That these allegations, this complaint, is not only all over New Mexico, all over the national media, it is all over the world. It's too late. That bell can't be unrung. The idea that he could then go out and be dangerous with a child in the world where everybody knows who he is absurd. That's absurd.
Prosecutors challenged that evidence. They asked the judge to give limited weight to the polygraph results, a standard position in many criminal cases, and raised concerns about relying on such evaluations at this stage. Still, Busfield's attorney insisted there was overwhelming evidence that the allegations were, quote, manufactured. Judge Murphy acknowledged the competing arguments before issuing his ruling, allowing Busfield's release while making clear that the case itself remains very much active.
The question is whether or not the state has proven by clear and convincing evidence that there are no release conditions that would reasonably protect the safety of any other person or the community. It's broken down into the three-part analysis articulated in State v. Groves, and in that analysis, the court considers the factors enumerated in Rule 54906 as required by State v. Anderson. The first question is whether or not the information proffered carries sufficient indicia of reliability to be worthy of consideration. I do find that the state's 6 exhibits and the defendant's 28 exhibits and the court's 2 exhibits and the testimony offered today are reliable for purposes of this decision. The next question is the dangerousness question, the extent to which that information indicates that the defendant may likely pose a threat to the safety of others if released pending trial. I'll back up and note that probable cause was found by the Metropolitan Court judge. We're not set for a preliminary hearing today. I do find that that is sufficient for a probable cause finding for today's purposes. So, as to the dangerousness question, based on the nature and circumstances of the present offense, noting that this is a crime where the allegations involve criminal sexual contact of minor children in the genital areas, I do find that is inherently dangerous. So I'm satisfied based on those that the state has proven that Mr. Busfield does pose a danger to the safety of others. As to the last question, whether there are any potential pretrial release conditions that would reasonably protect the safety of others, I'll work my way through the F6 factors, first adopting my findings about the nature and circumstances of the present offense. I'll move on to the weight of the evidence. Now, Ms. Brandenburg-Koch is right. It's important to acknowledge the nature of sexual assault cases and delays in reporting, especially from minor alleged victims, are fairly common. That sort of sexual abuse often occurs in the dark. This situation is a little different in that the allegations involve the defendant being alleged to have committed these acts on a film set. Now, the defendant's presentation, the affidavits from a number of people who worked on that film set, The independent investigation performed by the law firm hired by Warner Brothers, the testimony offered today do not corroborate the allegations offered by the alleged victims in this case. Now, while true, the statement from those children to law enforcement initially and expressly denied that anything occurred, the children then subsequently reported these things. That's not uncommon. As it stands today, based on the limited information I have in front of me, I'll characterize the weight of the evidence against the defendant as neutral at this point in time. As to the defendant's history and characteristics, as included or reflected in Court's Exhibit 1, this defendant exhibits zero criminal history, no misdemeanor or felony history. The state has brought forth a number of allegations over the last 30 years, something of a pattern involving allegations of this defendant committing some sort of sexual contact against post-pubescent women. Now, these allegations have not been vetted by the judicial system for various reasons. There being a civil settlement in one of those, a declined prosecution, or no action taken on the exchange of the defendant engaging in therapy. I understand that given the media attention to this case, that more people may come forward with other allegations supporting this pattern. But at this point in time, it's difficult for the court to put too much weight into those allegations as they've not been vetted by the judicial system. I'm concerned about the allegations of this defendant using his position of power on the film set to advance his own personal motive. But the affidavits offered by other people working on the film set do not show that Mr. Busfield has used or abused that position of power. With regards to the nature and seriousness of the danger posed, I'm very mindful of the higher court's guidance in the Begay case in weighing this defendant's risk of reoffending. But given the lack of a pattern involving children in this case, I think that can be remedied through different conditions of release. For factor E, I don't find that there's been sufficient presentation that this defendant may commit new crimes if released pending trial. There's no evidence of a pattern of criminal conduct. There are no similar allegations involving children in his past. There's no evidence of non-compliance with prior court orders. Rather, this defendant self-surrendered and submitted himself to this court's jurisdiction, demonstrating compliance with the court order for his arrest. There's not been any prior pretrial detention finding. So on the balance, I cannot find that the state has proven by clear and convincing evidence that there are no release conditions that would reasonably protect the safety of any other person in the community. So I am denying the state's motion. I'll take care of that order. That'll be published tomorrow. So Mr. Busfield, I'll set the following conditions of release. You're authorized for release on your own recognizance with the conditions that you appear at all future court settings. You're not violating the laws. You'll be supervised by pretrial services here in Albuquerque at a level 2. I'm not going to prohibit your travel. I understand you may not live here, but you will need to report to pretrial services here. You're not to possess any firearms or dangerous weapons. You're not to possess or consume any alcohol or illegal drugs. You must notify the court of your address. You're not to have any contact with the alleged victims or their families, and you're also not to discuss the case with any witnesses. That's what the attorneys and their investigators are there to do, and we can't have you tamper with any of that. And then you need to maintain weekly contact with your attorney in this case.
Busfield, best known for roles in The West Wing and 30-something, now faces a legal battle that could redefine his legacy.